Professor Fransson is currently the Education Director of Inno Energy Knowledge and Innovation Center, KIC, Inno Energy, of the European Union, a consortium of 13 high-level universities and 30 companies in Europe. Also chair of the Division of Energy Technology, KTH, Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. During the period of 1980-86, Dr. Fransson organized and installed the international database on unsteady aerodynamic in vibrating cascades. This database is still the main source of experimental and numerical results in the area. He has received a number of awards for his outstanding contributions to research and development. Professor Torsten Fransson will deliver a speech on transforming engineering education towards innovation and entrepreneurship in the 21st century. Over to you, Professor Fransson.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me in the back? Do you hear me in the back? Okay, good. And I don't have to use the mic right here. I will take a slightly different talk on this here. Professional integration for a secure nation. I think that might even start with education. So that is my starting point, and that is where I'm going to go from. So I think that education has to change drastically in the future. Okay, the key messages that I would like to bring out here are kids in the future, and then I do not look at you in the back because you are computer illiterate compared to the kids that are born today who will be computer literate, and they will be expecting something completely differently. They will be expecting something completely differently. And if kids want another kind of education, then the universities also have to change. Otherwise, the kids will be working with the feet. Remember what happened in Bologna about 1,000 years ago? People were working by foot to come to Bologna because there were great lectures. Now the great lectures are out on the internet. We do not have to walk by foot. We don't even have to take the airplane. By the way, I should also say here that my speciality, my original research is aeromechanics, which means that we're trying to prevent jet engines from failing and thus the airplanes falling off the sky. So but that's another story. It's just related to the turbulence that we were talking about previously. Okay, and if universities are going to change, I think that there will be a large need for a universal education instead. We are in a globalized world today, and we see this here in this meeting. People from almost all over the world come to one place. Now, it will not be possible for everyone to fly everywhere around the world just to get a lecture, but we can use the internet for that in a different way than what we are doing in today's environment. So, I'm in the energy sector, propulsion, etc., and I'm going to ask you and myself the question if there is a need for energy education and where this need is, and then I'm going to try to present to you a vision that I have about how we can do education in the future. So, is there a need for education? Well, I think that future generation will stand in front of global challenges. We've seen a few of them today related to this here in the last talk. There are a lot of challenges out there. And if we accept a death toll of many people, then we do not have to do much about it, but that is not what we are or we should accept. So, what will the kids of today expect and what will they receive in education? Now, this technology is old. It didn't really take off, but it's still there and it is slowly taking off. This technology is coming. This technology has just been announced and you can buy it. For $200 you can go out and you can buy a 3D virtual reality glasses that you put on your head, and you can couple that to your mobile phone and you will have superior experiences. And then, what about this here? We Google everything, right? We do not have to, it's much less. The teacher some years ago was the sole provider of knowledge towards the audience. That's not the case anymore. The audience in the lecture, they're probably Googling and they know the answer way before the teacher is presenting the answer to the questions that he or she presented at the blackboard. So, Do we need energy engineers in the 21st century? Well, I think that we do that everywhere, and one of the reasons why I think so is that energy is a very, very complex system, as most of you know. We do have approximately 1.6 billion people in the world who do not have any access to electricity at all. We've got 800 million more who have got some sporadic access to electricity. And with sporadic access, I don't mean that you might have one bulb so that you can read during the night or something like that. That's a third of the world's population as of today. It is clear that we need to make sure that people can have safe, reliable energy at their disposal. That is the main reason why the Western Hemisphere, United States, the Northern Western Hemisphere has thrived over the years. Availability for cheap, clean, well, clean, I shouldn't say that, but we thought it at that time, we thought it was clean energy. So, future society needs well-educated engineers with a high attitude for innovation, entrepreneurship, human and societal values, because these, we might have had innovation, we might have had entrepreneurship, but the question related to human and societal values in engineering has been there, but we have not been considering it long-term, I would say. Now, where do we find these future engineers? Well, we find these future engineers everywhere. We need to have them everywhere. But where do we find the highest quantity of teachers with PhD degrees and with international experience, etc.? Well, we find those, I would say, that we find those in the, I don't know how that's working here. We find those in the northwestern hemisphere, whereas the large number of prospective students are in the southern hemisphere. And I would like to say also that in Europe, from the European perspective, if this problem of education down here is not solved within a reasonable time frame, then Europe will stand in front of an enormous problem, because it's clear that people here, when they are increasing 1 billion people with 500 million young kids who really want to work, if they do not have the education so that they can find their work, where do they want to go? Well, they will, first of all, they want to cross the Mediterranean and come into Europe. So also some kind of self-perspective from the European society would mean that we should be looking at opportunities for education in remote areas. So then the question is, do we today efficiently match the worldwide knowledge providers with the global learners? And my answer to that is no. Is this inefficient in today's global world to give education? Is this efficient to do it? Are we not going 700 years back when the monks were sitting in the monastery and hand-copying books in the same way as students are sitting in a classroom today and hand-copying? Well, as a matter of fact, they're not hand-copying because they're Googling, as I said previously. They're Googling faster than we are talking. What will the future of education look like? Of course, not like this here, but it's interesting to think about what could happen. So, then, how is the energy education, which I come from the energy sector, as I said. I'm not going to talk about how education is done in other areas, but how is the education in the energy sector going to be, or how is that performed today? Well, in the old traditional campus way. We write on the blackboard and we turn the back, and we don't usually use the microphones either, so we write on the blackboard and we turn the back to the beautiful students sitting behind us. Okay? And we repeat the same messages year by year. The Euler equations came up. The first time the Euler equations were written was something around 1790. Right, since 1790, all the universities who are treating the Euler equations in the world, all the teachers, they've been writing the bloody Euler equations on the blackboard. Now, is there a need for 100,000 teachers every year to write the bloody Euler equations on the blackboard? I don't think so. I think that we can do much, much better. We can record certain issues, we can give pitches, we can give short explanations to the students, and then thereafter we invite the students to solve the problems that they come across. I mean, they will have, when they solve the Euler equation, when they read it, they will certainly find that there are lots of issues that they have got questions about, and we invite them to get out with the questions. Is that, or is that turning, as I do now, turning back to you guys? Right? And then we also get this, however, this here is very good, because then we as teachers, we are in our comfort zone. Right? I know the Euler equations, I can read and write it. Stokes equations not for the submachine, but for an airplane. But it should probably be the same thing, approximately. So, but answering questions from the students, bright students who have got bright questions, that might not be so bloody easy. So that I am really in the comfort zone when I do not have to answer these questions. I write my equations, blah, 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 and I've been doing that for 25 years, and that's good. There are thousands of general online courses that exist. Very low success rate compared to the number of registrants. There are not many people who are really finishing these courses. There are a few different online programs that start to appear. I mean, the sort of information on the internet is one thing. A course where you get knowledge is another thing. And the program should give competences and skills to the learners, and they should prove that. So, and in our case, there's virtually no energy online degree programs. Well, there is actually one from which I created myself, but that's just. Now, today, environment, most people have heard about MOOCs, right? Massive online open courses. Will that be the savior of the world of education? And on the same side, message, we're also talking, will that be a threat to the universities? Well, MOOCs, there's lots of players in the MOOC universe. You've got Coursera, you've got Udacity, you've got Future Learn, you've got edX, and then you've got this Khan Academy. But there's also one thing that people do not realize. There's big business in education. There's big business in education. And there is also big business in other areas, and these areas with big businesses, they have changed because of e-commerce. In Europe, there's quite a few newspapers who are going bankrupt because of the fact that they do not get in the advertisement for the printed version, and they have not been on the train. There have been others who are thriving very well because they have been on the train. Now, what is a MOOC? It is massive, it's open, it's online course, okay? But if you then look at it, it is very often a very traditional education with extensive use of the new media. So that's the only thing that's been done there. We're reusing the existing things that we have already, and we're putting it into the new media. But we do not change. And if you look at what e-commerce has done to newspapers and what e-commerce has done to what Uber has done, what Airbnb has done, etc., there have been a lot of changes in the methodology. What has happened? It has not been the traditional methodology that has been taken over and being reused with the new media. Okay, what will the universal role be in this perspective? Will all future courses be MOOCs? But there's a lot of drive towards digital learning at universities. Is MOOC really something new, or is it just the way to ride upon presently? Well, I think it's the latter. I think that there will be digital education, yes. I think there will be online education, yes. But MOOC is just a hype. It's a word that we're using at the present time, but that's another story. And what does these MOOCs give us related to didactical development? And then do we focus on the right things? Well, and if all courses will be MOOCs, how many courses are there needed? Right? I mean, how many Euler equation courses will we need? 10,000, 20,000? 5. I have got a former PhD student who's excellent didactic. He's very good scientifically and as well as teaching. He's now professor at Stuttgart. And I ask myself all the time, why the hell should any of my students want to sit in the classroom like this here and listen to me explaining the Euler equations when you can get a recording from this perfectly excellent entertainer, educator on a movie? So why they will look at this movie, they will learn much better, and then they will come to me and ask me certain questions. And that is completely different way of learning than what we have present. And the other question is, what will the role of the teacher be? So, but at the end of the day, it's the content, not the course, that will be the driving force. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of this kicking energy or the EIT, but the EIT is called European Institute of Innovation and Technology. It's within the Horizon 2020 framework of the Commission. It's a long-term initiative, and the reason that was started is because the politicians in Europe, they have got the impression, we're all right, I think, that we're doing excellent, good technical education in Europe. However, we do not have enough innovations, we do not have enough inventions, and especially we do not have enough new businesses that are created. And we, of course, look, as most people do, on the other side of the pond, that is the United States, and we conclude that all the big businesses in the digital media comes, with one certain exception, I would say, comes from the United States. Sweden has, on the other hand, been extremely good. If you look at Spotify, you look at Sky, you look at the gaming industry, Minecraft, etc., they come from the Stockholm area. It's an anecdote. You know about the Volvo, the car company, right? That was sold to Chinese a few years ago. There were 35,000 employees, and that was sold for $1.7 billion. At the same time, the Minecraft company, with 40 employees, were sold for $7 billion, right? Look at the differences. 35,000 employees sold for 1.7 billion, and 40 employees sold for 7 billion. So where is the business in that case? Anyway, we are developing a handbook for planning and following up on master and PhD studies. And this handbook is available, and that is related to student-centered education with business innovation, where we try to do learning by doing inside a curriculum, strong focus on creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and with all the assessments through so-called achieved learning outcomes that we try to do. Okay, the goal for us is to create a new kind of engineering talent more adapt to transformation. The pedagogical methodology that we try to use here is then that we come from the place that we imagine, I've got lost this here, no, it's there. We believe in this formula that 10% of the knowledge that we get out of training, learning, and the competence and skills come from formal training, 20% here, and then in the workforce. So what we should actually be doing, we should get our students to work. And if we can get the students to work, the complete cycle here will be in a different way. So trying to get focus on learning and not on teaching. And we're then trying to put up what we call the EIT portal, where we have got both pedagogical innovation, we have got MOOCs and MOOC, where we then say massive online open program. It doesn't have to be massive, I mean it can be 3, 4, 5, etc., but still it's open in various respects. Not completely free of charge though in that sense. And then we put a higher emphasis on the learning resources. And we do that in the following way, that we try to create the courses based upon chapters, smaller chapters, with special information that is available in a much smaller piece than a complete course. I, as an educator, I would never ever take over a complete course from someone else, and you would not take over a complete course from someone else, and neither would the other educators here. However, we are very, very open to stealing, borrowing material from someone else, and reusing that, readapting it, reshaping it. And if we can have a repository of these smaller modules, then we will be in a much, much better position than we are in today's environment. So, what do we try to do here? Well, that is our goal. We have not received that yet, but we start we build up the course as a kind of work package instead. We start by trying to identify a case. Can be a business case, can be a societal case, or something like that. Then we go in and we identify the unique attributes. And the unique attributes should have both academic value and target audience. And the students should ask themselves, and I hear there are some students in the background now, have you ever asked yourself, why does this teacher tell me exactly this? Why should I spend 5 minutes of my precious time listening to this teacher? Now, it's usually not 5 minutes, but it's 30, 40 hours. And in some cases, you drop out because the teacher is so boring. But that's another thing. And then, but try to identify the competences and the skills that the student should have afterwards. So I'm at 19 minutes, so I know where I am. Then you have to do the course description, and the course assessments, and the prerequisites. Then you have to identify the intended learning outcomes. And once you have identified learning outcomes, it should not be that I understand or anything like that. It should be that I am capable of doing something. I can actually do something. I can use my knowledge towards solving something. Now, one of the things that I'm very, very much interested in is in the achieved learning outcomes, and I want to have this here as much as possible as automatically corrected, based upon the fact that I think that multiple choice questions and automatic corrected calculation exercises can actually be done better by the computer, by the students working alone at home or in group work, than doing that together with the teacher. And then I would like to concentrate the quality time on the open-ended questions, discussions with the students instead. So, what I think that the teacher should be doing is, or will be the role in the future, is for architect to design the overarching intended learning outcomes, achieved learning outcomes, defining the achieved learning outcomes, that is the assessment questions, moderate peer discussions, and propose knowledge material. Not necessarily give the knowledge material, but propose the knowledge material where you as a learner can find that somewhere else. And then finally assess. Assess if the learner has achieved the competences and skills that I expect that learner to have in order to write off that yes, the learner has passed the course. I think that this will be quality time instead of quantity time. And I want to do this here in the sense that we create these learning resources of 3-dimensional lectures, film tutorials, study visits, film lab exercises, film lectures, remote laboratory exercises, the submarine experiments that we saw previously. That's not done by anyone measuring physically on the machine. It's done by computers, and then it really doesn't matter if I sit in Australia to do this here, or I sit in Sweden and I run an experiment in Australia. And these kind of remote lab exercises, they're coming out, and we've got a few of these. We can use exercises with hints so that the students can learn directly from the. And having recorded tutorials is going to be just as good as the teacher standing and giving, because we're not taking away the time between the student and the teacher. We're asking the students to prepare themselves. When I was a student, I had to, in order for me to come in and do my lab exercise, I had to write a small exam before. Okay? Now, we should do that for all the students before they come into any kind of lecture. They should be writing a small exam before, and if they then pass that exam, then they are allowed to come into the lecture and discuss with the teacher. Okay, I think that the 2030 learner will seek knowledge from everywhere. I think that the educator's role will change drastically. I think that some universities will not sustain in the present form, they will have to change. And I think that this methodology that I just proposed here is one of the ways forward. I'm not saying that it's the way forward, but I think that it's one of the ways forward. And then the question is, of course, are we ready to take off and go on a journey where we do not know exactly where we go? And I'm sorry for taking 3 minutes too much. Okay.
Thank you. No, you're within the time, please. Because we have 10 minutes, 5 minutes for question. Thank you so much for throwing light on the new way of thinking on the application. Can we have questions from the audience, please?
Which will allow students to go back and forth between the areas and come back. And I think that And if I look at my own career, of course there was lots of things that I never used, and it was good for me, and we should have like that. I mean, I'm not saying that we should only have that we're not allowed to learn things outside. Of course not. And especially when I'm pointing out the ethical, the humanity, and the societal perspectives, which we engineers are not very good at bringing out in our classical curriculum. Now, if I look at in Europe, people will not retire before they're 75 in the future. I mean, it's at the present time Sweden is 67, and it will soon be 70. The kids of today that are 25 when they go on, they will be working for 50 years. And during these 50 years, there will be an enormous evolution and in workforce, etc. And thus, I think that it's extremely important that we come back into the university setting, and that we really make sure that there is a continuous education in a completely different way than we're used to at the present time. So I'm not against the unuseful learning. I think that the unuseful learning is very, very useful. And I agree with you. We have to watch out. And that's why I say, I'm not saying that this is the way to the future, far away, but I say that we have to rethink. We have to.
A combination would do.
We have to work out something which is and the more provocative someone can be, the better it is, because then you know the pendulum always swings in one direction or another.
Any other question?
Well, then I will ask the students a question now. What would your take be on a thing like this here? You have to work harder, even harder than you're doing at the present time. About that tomorrow instead, because I see that you're not ready. Okay.
Just one question for me. Do you envisage a situation where the teacher-student interaction, either physically or through digital, will not take place, or it's a self-learning?
No. I do not envision that, not at all. I mean, it's not a question of. I started to do this work on this here in 1995 approximately, and I got the question from my colleagues: do you want to take the work away from me? That's not the issue. It's not at all. It's a question of trying to bring the discussion between the students and the learner up towards a peer discussion, as we're having at conferences, and having that discussion on a, I would say, higher intellectual level than just repeating the same messages year by year and making the same jokes at the same times, etc. Now, I had not planned any jokes here, but I was still out 3 minutes out of scope here. But because I did say a few words that I had not planned, right? So, the thing is that yes, we need to have the teachers, we need to have the educators, we should be behaving in a different way.
Yeah.
That is the way that I'm thinking. Yes. So it's not a question of taking away any programs, it's not a question of taking away any lecture or any discussion time. It's a reshuffle. And one thing that I really think also, as we had a discussion yesterday, I think that we do not use the international collaboration enough. We use that in the workforce, we do use that in many other places, but the not invented here syndrome is extremely high among the teachers. We are very, very willing to share all our research areas, but how often do we actually share the learning material between us? And it can be between two teachers sitting next to each other in the same office in principle, or being hundreds of miles away. We do not. It's very, very seldom that we do make this change, and that is this repository here can make an enormous difference like this here. We have to sort out the IPRs and the payment functions and all those kind of things, but having a repository where we try to work, put in information, and where students, just like App Store, Play Store, they can go in and get Edu Store and get all this here information, and teachers can exchange material. I think it would be. I do not understand why we should not be doing it.
Well, most of these academic or professional accreditation, like putting light on the new model, and let us show our appreciation and thanks by putting our hands together.